Hey everybody, today we're going to talk about books. We talk a lot about diversity in literature, diversity in the publishing industry. We need diverse books, we do. We also need diverse books to be done right, because nobody needs a bunch of diverse books done wrong. We've already had that plenty. So we're going to talk about two books that do get it right today. Both of them also happen to have Sorcerers in the title and as the main character, and they're both amazing books. First one is The Sorcerer of the Wildeeps by Ashante Wilson. Boom. Second one is Sorcerer to the Crown by Zen Cho. Boom. Both come out in September. They're just so good. I don't even know where to start, but I'm gonna start with this one. I blurbed the shit out of this book. Let's see what I said about it myself. The unruly love child of Shakespeare, Baldwin, George R.R. Martin, and Ghostface Killer. This was a book I could not put down. Read this book, then read it again slowly to savor each delicious, riveting moment. Listen, I would not take the names of some of my favorite authors in vain. I meant every word of that. It's an amazing book. It's poetic, it's devastating, it's violent, it's exciting. There's weird mythologies and creatures and magic. And the prose somehow just carries you along like you're on a river the whole time. There's all kinds of complex power arrangements that happen, and it's romantic too. The book basically has everything. It's a novella. It's short. It's from the new novella project coming out of Tor.com. The author, Ashante Wilson, is a relatively new voice on the scene. Already has been nominated for basically all the major awards. He's an incredible person, an incredible writer. The book is bananas. I don't want to tell you too much about it. There's a caravan, there's a sorcerer, there's fighting, there's an amazing city, and there's a wild magical place that they end up. The book gets camaraderie right. Camaraderie is hard to write. It's about how people relate to each other. It's about language. There's poetry in the midst of just regular trash talking. It's vernacular and poetic at the same time. It's hard to pull that off. You believe in each of the characters, even the minor ones. The world building is fantastic. You have this whole sense of this very creepy and complex universe all around them, but it is done with just a few deft strokes. I read this book and I was just like, what? That was like a live reaction of me reading the book. And then when I finished it, I just started it over again. And there's layers to the narrative. My sister Malka read it and found all kinds of things in it that I didn't see. That's the kind of book that you just devour in your head and you keep chewing and chewing even long after you put it down, like a piece of bread that you don't finish chewing. Second book, Sorcerer to the Crown by Zen Cho. Comes out from Ace Books in September 1st. This is a book that I talked about on Twitter and described as all the enchantment of Harry Potter, but written for adults and with leads that are people of color. And that kind of says it all. That's like really encapsulates so much of this book that gets it right, in the sense of it's not just that they painted, black and brown faces onto white characters. Zen Cho does a lot of work thinking about the power and the history involved with these characters and their role in society in a white supremacist London from back in the day during the Napoleonic era. They are dealing with racism, and they're dealing with classism, and they're dealing with sexism, and it's all built in beautifully and intricately into the story of the book. So the book isn't necessarily about all those things, but it is harmoniously woven into the plot and into the world building, and it's excellently done. On top of that, it is, like I said, there's an enchantment aspect to it that you cannot get away from. It's beautiful. The story is beautiful. The story is exciting. The world building is fascinating. It's all of these very intellectual, hoity-toity wizards and magicians and things plotting on things and being political. There's a lot of political wrangling, which I love. And on top of that, there's a lot of magic and fairies and weird creatures. The rules are very explicit and interestingly laid out, and the rules are constantly played with in cool ways. I really enjoyed the characters too. I believed in them. I was thinking about who they were, what they would do, how they related to each other. It was fun. I'll say this too about the book. I didn't expect to like it as much as I did when I started reading it. Why? Because I like very straightforward type of writing. And this is very eloquently written with lots of flourishes and lyrical touches. And that's how it should be written, because that is correct to the world that it's describing. And some sentences I was like, what? And I sort of had to go back and read it again, and that didn't bother me, and that's amazing. I was fully involved in the world. It never took me out of the world. It's just beautifully written, but like I said, in a way that caught me off guard. It's also very lighthearted and funny, which is something that I usually don't like in fantasy. I usually like fantasy to be heavy, like George R.R. Martin type heavy, with, maybe light moments or some sardonic laughs in there. And I was with it, totally with it. Zen Cho is a master. I really enjoyed this. Rate it, Enjoy it. That's it for this week's segment where I talk about books. In this case, books that I loved. Hopefully, usually books that I loved. I don't want to trash too many books on here unless they really have a comment or they're dead people that wrote the books. Not that are. Anyway, that's it for this week's segment. And I'll see you next week.
Hey, Nina.
See you next week. But anyway, but that's it for that's
Ready.
No.
It was on camera.
Oh, are you filming now?
Yeah.
Oh, nice. All right. Ooh, I just got all right.
Of course, the truck passes.
And I look like a dick. I look like a dick. That's all I care.